so people do a lot of posts about it. Especially for him, you know, Christian should be used to both. Poor guy, don't that's gotta hurt. That's like, listen here, I worked they had two of these. It fits it to a T. Ouch, it hurts.
Yeah, I think you only have to do one time.
Well, let's see. How about here? Okay, here you go. Thank you.
I'll put that back up here. So.
Yeah.
I don't want Peggy getting upset with me. Yeah. We can't move the flags. It's part of our colors. Is he? Okay. I'll let him. That's his protocol. See the screen. Is that okay?
The DEC's.
Let me know when you're ready to start. I'll let everything get off.
I was just waiting for him. Are you ready to go, kid? That's another one?
That's my lunch day.
Yeah, I got another one. Hold on.
You have two of these.
Oh, here, I got. Got another one, and I'll have you come up and grab them, but I'll name off the name and say that's okay. JBB. I know that person. A couple people lost their ID cards. It's all good. We had a good conversation. He looks like a huggable bear.
Is that gonna help?
Can't remember. I can't forget Dale Barnett.
Yep. All right.
There's a hospitality thing.
Where's our sergeant? You ready? Sergeant at Arms, colors are in place.
Colors in place, and salute. 2.
I now declare this afternoon session back in convened. At this time, I have, I'm sorry. There you go.
Now you're a kid.
You might think I'm Peggy Moon, but I'm not. And I'm not going to mention that's my husband over there.
Here.
I do have 2 ID cards up here for the conference here. Wally Jensen, Minneapolis 68. His is up here, and Jay Beebe, Brainerd Post 255, District 6. The Sergeant at Arms will come up and get these later on. Please get these from the Sergeant at Arms. At this time, it's my great privilege to introduce to you Bill Sloan. He's from the American Legion National Headquarters and from Internal Affairs, and he is the American Legion Program office is what he's works under. Please rise and give him a warm welcome. Bill Sloan.
Thank you, Commander. I was kind of surprised to be oh, right.
Got 4, so stand.
I completely lost my train of thought. I'm proud to be back in Minnesota talking to you guys again. I get invited by the department up to do things over the years. From time to time, membership, internal affairs stuff with the American Legion Riders, of course. But it's kind of surprising to be called up to talk to you about the American Legion Riders, because typically when I travel and talk to departments, it's because they are not certain about the riders. They're not sure what's going on. They might be having problems and they want me to come in and fix it or something like that. I know which departments are having problems with the American Legion Riders because my telephone rings all the time from those departments that are having time. Rider having problems, or a post member having problems with the riders, or just general questions. But I don't think I've had a phone call from Minnesota in the last 4 or 5 years. And that is an indication both of strong leadership in the department, but also strong leadership in the riders as well. Particularly when you look at the rider program in Minnesota and look at the accomplishments they've done for my other key project throughout the year, which is the Legacy Scholarship and the American Legion Legacy Run. When Minnesota donates $87,000 to the American Legion Legacy Scholarship through the run and through the efforts of the riders here. I'm told it's something like $17,000 to $20,000 more than the next higher department. And there are a lot of departments out there who are struggling and trying their best because they want to catch up. They want to do what Minnesota and a few other departments are doing like that. So my hats off to you. It's incredible. It's incredible what you do, especially when you think about all the other things that the riders are doing in Minnesota and elsewhere that we don't hear about. It may not be connected with a scholarship. It may not be connected with any of the national programs, but the riders are continuously doing fundraising and riding in support of their posts and support of programs within their communities, children's cancer camps, VA hospitals, volunteering. The mileage they're putting on in volunteer activities is just mindless. So again, well, that's it for my speech today.
Don't do that to me. This has been a hard enough week as it is.
I want to thank you for inviting me here. You can go ahead and start the presentation. Oh, all right, we're good to go. And I've got a clacker here. That's just a picture to open up of the American Legion Legacy Run. This happens to be on down the road in Charlotte, Michigan, leaving the parking lot that morning. This was a couple of years ago. Minnesota ALR programs. Forgive me for turning around and reading the slides because I've added some content this morning and I don't have a monitor that I can see in front of me. But as I mentioned, there's a strong interest in Minnesota for many years. The Riders program has been around since 1993 when it started in Michigan. In Michigan, in Garden City. And then from there, it kind of moved under the radar to chapter to, or post to post, and then entered other states. And one of the first states it got into was Minnesota. Among the top fundraisers for the American Legion Legacy Run, one of the first departments with a statewide legacy run that you've been doing for 7 or 8 years now. I think it started with 2 runs, one in the northern part of Minnesota and one in the southern part. Is that right?
Yep.
I think this year, did you do a single?
No, 2 weekends, one in the north, one in the south.
Little or no complaints, as I mentioned, and symptomatic of a strong department leadership, not only with the department and the NEC, but also with the riders at the department level too. So I want to start. Resolution 35, which we're all bound by. It adopted the riders as a national program in October of 2007. By this time, the riders had been around for over a decade. And it was a strong and growing program that we would never have had a resolution like this. And for many years, I was telling riders that, you're not going to get a recognition until you have riders in most of the departments. And like 24, 36 months later, all of a sudden, you've got riders not only in every department in the country, but all the overseas areas too. So that's how the riders have grown. But Resolution 35 was an attempt by the National Executive Committee to put something together. Let's get the guidance out to the departments and to the riders if they have something to go by. Resolution 35 was submitted by the Department of Michigan in large part based on recommendations made by the Michigan riders, the founding members from Garden City, Michigan, Bill Kalidas, Chuck Deere, those guys. And one of the biggest kicking points of Resolution 35 is that it gives a set of recommended guidelines for the American Legion riders. And I see some heads going up and down, you know what I'm talking about. The original resolution, before the NEC got a hold of it, actually required each of those 8 points be required of all American Legion riders programs. For instance, every rider would be a member of the American Legion family. Every rider would own a motorcycle. And of course, all the rest of those 8 suggestions are flying out of my head right now. But they wanted it to be a solid motorcycle-centered program for the American Legion, and to be an American Legion program first, and have American Legion and auxiliary and SAL members be the ones that did it. The National Executive Committee looked at it, and in their wisdom decided that, no, we are not going to make these requirements because we have got to give the posts and the departments some leeway. Allow them to develop the program as they see fit, because that's how the best things rise to the surface. There'll be mistakes made, sure, but over time, the best programs will come up. So they changed the word from required to recommended, and instructs post chapters and riders to abide by the American Legion Constitution and bylaws, because that is still part of the resolve clause, and provides for national department to maintain general oversight for the proper use of the name and the emblem, and to make sure that the programs abide by the national constitution and bylaws like every other program. Under the stricter standards rule, National, if you'll notice over the years, has not really put out any guidelines other than Resolution 35. We don't want it to be too specific. We want to allow the departments and even the posts to be able to go further and establish stricter guidelines if they want to. That's true not only for the riders programs, but it's true for the SAL. It's true for all post programs. How many people in Minnesota may belong to a post where you're all an all doctor post or an all business post, special interest post? If you're in Chicago, Illinois, you might belong to an all Polish American veterans post. Have you heard of that? That's an example of stricter guidelines that a post can set for its members that are stricter than the national constitution or sometimes the state department constitution, but still allowable because the post is in charge of its members. For the case of the riders chapter, what is the minimum CC requirements for your motorcycles for the riders here? Depends upon the post?
Goes to the post.
That's good. There's a lot of departments that have established minimum CC requirements, and they've run into problems with that. I'm glad to see the department is not setting that standard and allowing the post to set that. What is a minimum CC typically?
350 is what they were.
350 or bigger? There are some departments, and I'm not going to name who they are, but whose initials are Texas, that at one time had a minimum CC of 750 for the entire department. And that kind of cut out a lot of people who could have been participants in the riders programs. Nothing says, though, that one of your posts, one of your riders chapters might set a minimum CC of 750 or 600. It's their decision, and it's more restrictive than the general guidelines, so that's okay. However, if the Department of Minnesota came out and said that the minimum CC in this department is 350 CC, then no other post can come along and say, well, we're not going to have a minimum CC at all because we don't think it's fair. They can't do that because that's not less restrictive. Membership is open only to members of the Legion, the Sons, and the Auxiliary who ride motorcycles. And this can be one of the more interesting parts of the presentation. How many members of the riders in Minnesota are not eligible for membership in the Legion, Auxiliary, or the SAO? They're all members. Good. There are a lot of departments, a lot of chapters across the country who want to have something like, well, my buddy over here wants to be a rider. He's a great motorcyclist. We just want him to be part of our chapter. Can we move him in? I think he's eligible in the American Legion family. On the other hand, there are situations that are popping up. How about the male spouse of a female Legion rider? Is that an issue? Yes. It's not a big issue, but it is becoming an issue. The problem is the rider and the departments really cannot authorize anybody to join the riders as a member, because that is a violation of the national constitution and bylaws, which states that in order to be a member of the American Legion, you've got to be a wartime veteran, essentially. And to become a rider or a member of a post program who's not eligible, then you're violating the department and the national constitutions and bylaws. You guys are already ahead of it because you already have the rule that you can't be a rider. But do you have volunteers? Yes. Yeah. Some programs have volunteers. American Legion baseball program has volunteer coaches in some cases. These guys are not eligible to be members of the American Legion or the SAL, but they're good with kids, they're good coaches, and they say, the post says, we want you to be our baseball program coach. In that case, the guy can wear the patch, he can wear the baseball emblems and the trademarks and everything else in his role as an American Legion coach. The question of whether you can allow somebody to join the riders who's not eligible is a completely different animal. And you're running into problems. Number one, you can't have dues or fees of any sort change hands, because even under the table, if they've handed you money so they can be a volunteer member of the riders, you've just manufactured a form of membership that's not allowed under the national constitution. But I'm speaking to the choir here. You already know about that. You're not doing that here. But it's tempting. What about the other rule that American Legion riders must own motorcycles?
You have to have communicable property.
What's that?
If you're a passenger, you can join.
Oh, okay.
Spouse, passenger.
As long as that passenger is a member of the Legion, the Auxiliary, or the SAL. That's perfectly okay. That's perfectly fine. But that depends on which department you're in. Some departments have said no. So it's kind of hard to do. National is not going to put out a rule that says hey, you have to own a motorcycle to be a member of the American Legion Riders. Two reasons. Number one, in many parts of the country, there are riders who have ridden, they're members of the American Legion Riders for many years, but all of a sudden they've gotten to an age where they can't ride anymore. The doctor says, give up your bike, it's too dangerous for you to ride. So now they're American Legion members who want to be members of the riders, but they don't own a motorcycle anymore. Should they be allowed to have membership? Answer is obviously yes. But that's something we're going to also leave to the departments and posts. And we say it's okay. The department will say it's okay. A post or a chapter can say it's okay, but that chapter can also make the decision that, no, we're going to remain 100% motorcycle. So it's going to be something a chapter can decide. It's not something that we're going to try to push on. Supporting members, honorary members, volunteers, others like male spouses. Obviously, a lot of people are trying to get in, but the question of allowing somebody who's not eligibly a member of the Legion family to be in the riders is pretty much closed. You just can't do it. You can't do it because it gets your chapter in trouble and it puts the post in hot water too, if something like that happens. All because of the National Constitution. That's boring. Let's go on to something more interesting. The post hosts and supervises the chapters. A chapter must be affiliated with a post or a district or the department itself. A chapter has got to be affiliated with a chartered organization of the American Legion. A chapter cannot exist independently of a post. The same is true of the Sons of the American Legion. What happens if a post has to turn in its charter and disband? If they have an SAL squadron, what happens to that squadron? It has to disband as well. Question comes up, well, the auxiliary doesn't have to disband. They can continue. Well, that's true, but the auxiliary operates under a separate charter, a separate national constitution and bylaws. The Sons of the American Legion operates under the Internal Affairs Division of the American Legion, so it's part of the American Legion as well. Constitution and bylaws is not required. In fact, a lot of events that have had constitution and bylaws for their riders have moved away from it. Just go to a normal SOP or house rules or some sort of organizational document. It's much easier to change when the department executive committee or somebody else wants to make minor changes. Then they can do it easily. If the riders want to make minor changes, they can do it a lot easier that way as well. And riders are a program of the post, and as such, they enjoy the same tax exempt status as the post. You don't have to be forming any 501c3s and all that stuff to get a new EIN number or anything else. You use the same stuff available at the post that all of the post programs use. For trademark, we all wear the patch, which is owned by the American Legion. Under the trademark and federal trademark rules, and I'm moving away from what the National Constitution and bylaws of the American Legion are, because it's not mentioned in there. This is common to all organizations in the country that use and wear trademarks. So whether it's the American Legion, the American Legion Riders, or Pepsi-Cola, Coca-Cola, IBM, we've got to follow these trademark rules. Essentially, the Riders and the Sons of the American Legion and American Legion Baseball and Oracle and all the other subordinate programs have got to be under the constant and continuous control of the post that they're affiliated with. Finances, the Sons and the ALR may certainly have a bank account if it's okay with the post. A lot of times it's much easier to do that, but because of trademark restrictions, that bank account must be at least accessible to an officer of the post. And in most cases, it's simply solved by just having that the post treasurer or finance officer be signatory at the bank. His signature is also on that account card that you have when you open up a bank account. And that's all that needs to be done. Just for the post to be able to go down to the bank and take a look at the finances. The Riders must render both a financial report and activities report each month, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. Charters, do you have charters in Minnesota? No. There are no national charters for the American Legion Riders. Some of the departments, though, have started to hand out nice parchment colored pieces of paper that says American Legion Riders Charter across the top and given it to the chapters as they form chapter after chapter. This accomplishes two things. Now the department is able to tell who the chapters are, where they're at, and keep tabs on them like that. They're taking steps towards some of the states, some of the departments even have department-wide membership card programs for the American Legion Riders. But some departments do more, some departments do less. Charters are a very nice thing to give to a new chapter organizing, to list the charter members, chapter members, and things like that. So it works out well. But there is not a national charter. in the same way of the SAL and the American Legion itself when we give to new posts. To do that would involve us in probably we would have to start giving charging dues, national dues of some sort to the riders to pay for something like that. Logo patch words, American Legion riders, the patch that we wear, these are all service marks of the American Legion. And you notice something different on this slide. I've got that little funny little mark, circle heart, next to the words. Technically, every time we put this in print or on a presentation, we're supposed to include the trademark, because the words, the very words, American Legion Riders, is a trademark owned by the parent organization. And because of that, we've got to be careful how we use it. The patch as well is also a trademark. You can see the American Legion Riders, that's on file with the U.S. government in the trademark office. The baseball patch, that's exactly what is on file with the U.S. government, the trademark office. And you notice that one has a boundary around it and the other one doesn't. That can raise all kinds of issues. One of the reasons that we're talking about trademark issues right now is because it wasn't the riders that got us in trouble, it was the damn baseball program. How many baseball folks have we got in here? What was happening is in many places, they were putting the post name, the post number inside the boundary of the patch and making them up and giving them out. It might something like baseball umpire or coach would be inserted inside there. And that was really messing up our capabilities with the trademark, because if you use the trademark improperly too much, what happens? Yeah. This is the audience participation portion of my presentation today. Yeah, there's a trademark. And we don't want that to happen, particularly with the riders. Here are some of the improper trademarks that have surfaced over the years. People have been making their own patches. Another department that I'll not name, but whose initials are Connecticut. Florida, you can see right there. What's wrong with that? You see that state name right there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's got the city name inside the registered trademark. In other words, they got it there, so they are imposing on the trademark. That's been corrected. In fact, all of these have been corrected. And there are several penalties when they learned what would happen with that have been kind of pulled back. This slide is several years old. And what's happening is riders across the country are migrating to a standard patch, the one sold by themselves, because they know that's a good one. And they're going to do some of that stuff. You can read this in the Emblems sales catalog. It's on the last page. But the American Legion is a federally chartered veterans organization, and the penalties are a little bit stiffer. But permission is easy to get. If you've got an event coming up, if you want to make a specialty patch or a baseball cap or a t-shirt with the American Legion Riders logos and emblems and names, all you have to do is go to the officer's guide, fill out the application form. And today, it's even easier. You can go to the website, national website, to the emblem request form, and you can fill it out online. Attach an image of the thing you propose to do, send it up. The department will be automatically copied for their approval. And within a couple of days, you'll get permission. Actually, the vendor that you have selected to do your t-shirt or your baseball cap or to make your patches, he will be mailed a license so that he will have something in his hand to use and know that he's not going to be sued for copyright infringement. We will give him a license to do that. It's very easy and quick to get. Again, the constant continuous control requirement. These are the 5 rules real quick that the Sons of the American Legion Riders, baseball, oratorical, every single program of the American Legion that wears a Legion patch or uses the American Legion name must comply with these 5 rules, which are related to the trade. If you have officers or directors or committee The committee chairman must be named by the hosting post. The Sons of the American Legion, do they have elections in Minnesota?
Yes.
Yeah, they have for decades. The American Legion Riders, do you have elections?
Yes.
Yeah, you do. But remember, the elections are a courtesy because under federal trademark rules, we can't allow independent elections. What happens at the post meeting or the district meeting, you read the report of elections, and then the report is approved. And at the instant the gavel hits the table, that election, that organization just named those officers. But that was a result of nominations resulting from election. The reverse of that is the post can remove officers at will. In the same way for not accomplishing the job, officers, they can also remove the writer officers. And the writers don't like to hear it, but hey, that's just the way it is. And if you're a writer director, you have the same power because you name your own officers in those cases. And if you have a road captain or a chaplain or another writer officer who's not doing his job, you also have the authority and the ability to remove him and replace him with somebody else. And this very simply states that if you have a vacancy in those officer positions throughout the year, then the post must name the replacement officer. Typically, this is done because the writers will say, hey, we've got a vacancy, we would like to replace him with this person. And then the post says, okay, we're good with that, and they appoint him in his place. How many people have installation ceremonies for your writer officers? Very good, very good. National Judge Advocate loves that. He says that's another way, a very good way of complying with the federal trademark rules. Because when you install officers, that's the same thing as naming them officially. Post programs must report to the post no less frequently than monthly. This is true for IBM and Coke and Pepsi-Cola. If they've got subsidiary organizations, they are required, if they use the trademark, to render a report to the higher organization. Typically a financial report. Post treasurer, we mentioned this already. Post treasurer or finance officer, actually any post officer, should be signatory on any lower bank accounts. Are there any writer chapters in here that do not have a bank account? You just use the post. There are actually a lot of chapters around the country that they don't bother with a bank account at all. They just go to the post treasurer and says, we need this amount of money for this purpose. And from time to time, they go to the post treasurer and say, here's, $87,000 that we raised for the Legacy Scholarship. Getting the post involved with the finances is not a bad idea. And anytime you change your constitution and bylaws or your articles of incorporation or your SOP or anything like that, get the post to approve. That's the same thing that the post has to do if they change their constitution, that it must be approved. Whether you have a constitution or bylaws or not, doesn't make any difference. You can call them house rules, you can call them an SOP. Constitution and bylaws across the country are being dropped in favor of SOPs simply because they're easier to manipulate. The writers can make changes faster, and things can be approved a lot quicker. And you can call them whatever you want. SOPs, houses, articles of incorporations, house rules, anything like that. Legal issues. Should we form a separate nonprofit? And this has happened a lot, not only with the writers, but with baseball programs, SAL sometimes, and other programs where typically for liability reasons, the post thinks it's a good idea to split them off into a separate legal entity. And they might form a 501c3. Another reason across the country that people do this is because if all of the programs of the post, like baseball and SAL and writers and oratorical, all belong to the same 501c19, they can't go down to Walmart and get that $1,000 donation that the local Walmart or Target is giving to nonprofits in that town. Or if one of them goes, all of a sudden, that's it, nobody else in that post can get it. So their answer is to form a 501c3 for each of the programs, and they all go to Walmart and they all get $1,000. This makes sense? They do it. They actually do it in some parts of the country. Number one, they don't have to, except that Walmart sometimes doesn't understand that 501c19 is exactly the same thing as the C3, except it's got a veteran's flavor to it. And then you're arguing with Walmart because their paperwork from their headquarters company says that they can only give that grant to a 501c3. And you're Asian, I see you're a 501c19, but I don't know what that means, so you're not going to get the grant. All right. Make a long story short, they're attempting to do this, and it works sometimes, but typically it opens up a whole can of worms for the writers and for the SAL, anybody trying to do that. The 501c3, for instance, cannot lobby for veterans. It's illegal for them to do that. And of course, how many people have heard the Form 99 forms that you've got to submit every year? If you open up a 501c3, all of a sudden you got to do that every year. So it's dangerous. Is there a reason to open a 501c3 for a post to open a 501c3? Nod your head, it's okay. Okay. Many posts have scholarship programs, and they spend off into a 501 tax benefits of doing that. So it's not unquestioned, it's not a bad thing to do, just be careful how you do it with the advice of the department. More about that. Finances and insurance, and this is the sticking point all over the country. How many people of the chapters in the Post have you discussed insurance liability about the writers? It's coming out of my mouth. Everybody's, very tired looks on their faces. Yeah, we've discussed this quite a bit. And I don't have much advice to give you because I'm tied to looking at it from the national point of view, and there are 50 different states and 50 different state insurance arrangements. It's very difficult. I will say this, that insurance agents have told me that the writers are not a problem. The baseball program for transporting busload of kids across the state, that terrifies insurance agents. Writers, by virtue of the fact that they have to own and operate a motor vehicle, they are typically self-insured. So you're not going to be paying for motorcycle accidents and stuff like that. But the Post is still responsible to make sure that because they've added another program to the Post, what additional liability is the Post exposed to? And the best answer to that is to go to the Post insurance agent, find out who's been getting insurance from, and ask that insurance agent, what would it cost us? How does this expose us to liability? And work it out with them. You're not covering the riders and their equipment and their motorcycles and their bodily harm, so to speak. You're covering the Post for liability. Sometimes a Post will go and talk to their insurance for the first time in 15 or 20 years because of this. And the insurance agent will tell them, well, not only are they not really that much of a liability, but if you talked to me sooner, I could have reduced your rates because you should be paying a much lower amount than what you're paying right now. So sometimes it's a good thing. Other insurance issues for liability are when the writers put on an event, a sponsored event by the Post, or even the statewide legacy run, things like that. You should be talking to the insurance companies and your insurance agent about covering your liability for such an event with event coverage. It's not that expensive. The National Legacy Run has event coverage for that as well, and it's just a good idea to do. But again, it's complicated. You've got to talk to people who are familiar with insurance in Minnesota to talk about that. I'm running ahead of myself. ALR chapters should also have liability Post Town. We got an American Legion Writers National Committee in place. They've just been reappointed at the fall meetings last week. Terry Woodburn of Illinois is the chairman. TJ Haynes, Texas, is the vice chairman. And we've got these writers who were elected, or actually nominated and named by the national commander. We don't have any play in selecting who these are. They were all reappointed this year, but Jack Purfell, my boss and director of internal affairs, we didn't know who these people would be until the NEC met to name them. Kershaw, Clark, Bill Kalidas, one of the founders in Michigan, Bob Sussin, Virginia, John Moffett, David Goff in Wisconsin, I think, is the liaison for this part of the country, and Jackie Avanti in Connecticut. So these people are in place to kind of act, they're not like representatives. They are representatives to the national committee, but they are also in place to render assistance to the national vice commanders in those regions and any director who has questions about putting a program together. They can talk to them and get some of the best practices that have been happening around the country. Now, I'm supposed to speak until 4 o'clock. Okay, I wanted to switch gears and talk about the Legacy Scholarship, but this is a good point either to take a break. Let's take some questions right now. And then after the questions, we'll take a short break and then come back in here and talk about something completely different. So, question.
Stuffy Paulson, Post 94 Rusher. Kind of hitting like a hammer what you just stated. What the document that this spurred this whole thing, essentially, Minnesota ALR is attempting to do exactly what the National ALR Committee is doing. We're there to assist, we're there for full communication needs, and that is it. And I guess I want to reiterate that to everybody in this room that is exactly what the MNALR is attempting to accomplish, is what National has already had in place. And I guess we're going to have some more questions, but that is the only purpose of our organization.
Okay. Over here, Teresa.
Teresa Ash, 4th District American Legion. You had said something about getting permission to alter the patch. You can do that on the website. And you also then said that the department would get a copy for their approval, and within a couple days you'd get a CC. What if the department disapproves? Does the department get their approval prior to National? Because what if they want to change it to pink and chartreuse? The department disapproves. Do you approve before department?
Well, if the department disapproves the design, typically they'll have a reason for it. It may be something that doesn't reflect well, or it may be ill-conceived. But the real reason is, no matter how good the design is, we are required that everything that arises out of the local post of the American Legion flows through the department. That is just a mandatory thing for National. We are not going to do anything for a post or approve anything without using the chain of command, and the department is part of the chain of command. It would be unusual for a department to disapprove something like that. And if they did, they would usually have very good reasons. So, and you can get with me after to talk about a particular thing, but it would be unusual.
It just was the chain. It just, to me, it seemed like the chain of command was bypassed, because you said the department would be copied to get for their approval. And then the way you said it, it was like you'll funnel it back down with your approval.
Oh, I see. I see.
Because of the
Yeah, my word that you copy was probably a misstatement. The post and the writers can initiate the request, but it flows through the department up to the national organization for approval.
Okay. There was another one over here. Who else had their hand up over here?
Is that when they
Jeremy's coming around with a microphone, so he'll get.
Scott Phelps from Blue Earth and Winnebago. You said we do not have to have a bylaws to be an organization. Is that even that the state doesn't have to have bylaws either?
That's correct. The department does not have to have a program at all. There are several disadvantages to that, which I'll probably get to in a few minutes, but there are some departments that have said, no, we don't want to be involved. We want the program to be a post-level program. In some departments, the writers want that, and they've communicated to their departments that we'd rather not have anything to do with the department at all. We want to be completely a post program. And in certain departments, that has proved to be good. In other departments, that's proved to be a disaster. There's got to be some sort of department level organization, even if it's only a department level committee or a department liaison name, to kind of keep track and see what's going on. The departments that have decided to have no part of the writers, and most of it is they're afraid of liability. It has not worked out very well for them, to be honest. But the fact is, it's department decision, department executive committee, and the department officers decide whether or not there'll be a department level existence of whatever form of the American Legion Writers.
Nationally, have you seen that the American Legion Writers have been beneficial to the whole organization?
Well, if you ask me, absolutely. My perception, and I might ask Dale Barnett for his input on this as well, as a leading candidate. My perception has been that overwhelmingly the writers have proved themselves not only to the National Executive Committee and national officers, but also to the departments and the program officers around the country. Because there were a lot of people who expected the writers to kind of fall on their face and be a flash in the pan. You know, this is a fad. This is something that will pass quickly. But from my point of view, it has just been growing and growing and growing. And not only has it involved new people, young veterans coming into the Legion to be part of the writers, but a lot of Legionnaires and auxiliary members and SAL members who've been around for 30 and 40 years, they are getting more involved with the American Legion in all of its programs because of their involvement with the American Legion Writers as well. So, of course, I'm opinionated on it, but Mr. Barnett, I would love for you to say a few words about that.
Sure.
Okay. Well, Bill, I totally agree with you. And if you look what the Legion Writers have done for membership, what they've done for earning money, for the legacy scholarship, and something that I'm going to try to do next year, we were talking about that at lunch, we haven't seen it, is be more visible in the community. And that's what the Legion Writers have done for our organization. There's an article came out today in our PR report about sometimes we're losing touch because we stay in our own comfort zone. And what the writers have done to the American Legion is they brought us out of the post home and out into the community very positively, raising funds and showing the community is not in our own home and we don't want to go out. So I think they're very visible, they're very positive, there's something that's been a great success, and yes, it's involved. And I was on but I tell you what, I think this organization is much, much better because we have the Legion Writers. I think they're here to stay. I think they're growing our organization, and I'm thankful for very, very much for what they're doing for the legacy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's a funny thing at the national level. Is this still on? It's funny at national because I'm kind of like the staff guy in internal affairs who's supposed to brief the rest of the directors about the riders and let them know, this is how they're organized. They're a program of the American Legion, like the SAL. But no matter what I tell them, things are popping up at the national headquarters. If you go to the Emblem Sales Office, Geiger Operations Center, it's a brand new building. And when they talk about the American Legion family, the riders are the fourth member of the American Legion family. And these are national officers. These are the National Executive Committee. These are the Director of Emblem Sales, the Director of Internal Affairs, Director of Americanism. You walk into Geiger Operations Center and the first thing you see are 4 huge emblems. The American Legion emblem, the American Legion Auxiliary emblem, the Sons of the American Legion emblem, and the American Legion Riders emblem, lined up at the same height, same size. They are being equated as an equal partner in the American Legion family. And to me, it gripes me a little bit. I love to see it. I love to see the recognition, but it makes my job harder because I keep having to remind people that, no, we are a program. There are certain things that we have to keep in mind. But that's an indication of how well the riders have gotten as far as the national organization, as far as acceptance. It's just, you're a permanent part of the Legion. And I think I'm going to take a break before I'm going to go with a legacy scholarship, but I wanted to talk about some of the questions came up about some departments have department programs for the riders. It is across the board. Indiana is an example of a department that got on early on and they wanted to be involved. They wanted to have a full-blown riders program at the department level with elected department rider officers. They have money to spend at department conventions for the riders to have state meetings, district meetings, and things like that. But that's one of the few examples. The reason is that it costs money to do something like that. And the Indiana riders long ago, 5 or 6 years ago, decided, let's go ahead and pay department dues to offset the costs for the riders, for the department to be able to assist us in doing that. Those are very real costs. It's not free to put on a department convention or a fall conference like this. And the riders went into partnership. The riders also have a state membership card program that's working out well. The department wanted to do that early because the department wanted to make sure that the riders were accomplishing what they could accomplish as well. I see a question coming up.
Membership director. I think with all of our Legion riders here, we have to show, of course, that we have the state of Minnesota couldn't be any prouder than our American Legion riders. And as a membership director, and I think we got all of our questions answered, as a membership director for the state of Minnesota, I hope and pray that our American Legion riders will take this to heart and get out there and double and triple their membership and become #1 in the nation. They have the capability, they show that of being #1 in the nation for getting the funds for the legacy run, and I think we should just keep it going.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Diane Sullivan from the Excel Street Unit. I'm glad to see you here today with us, and hopefully you'll get a lot of these questions answered. I guess, for 30 years I've belonged to this organization, and I'm still learning on what the heck it's all about. You never learn what the Legion is all about. So now we've got the Legion riders that have come voted in Minnesota about 8 or 9 years ago. I want to say 1/3 of your Legion riders are brand new members to the Legion family. And we're working darn hard in educating them. And every organization is going to have wildcats. Well, unless we have youth in the Department of Minnesota get behind us and welcome us and make us one of your programs. We have nothing to back us, so to stop these wildcats. So, like I said, we need your support for the American Legion Riders. Thank you.
I'm changing the,
Oh, yeah, hold on, there you go.
okay. Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, let's say,
I appreciate those remarks. I was listening. I'm going to take a break. We'll still have time for questions a little bit later on, but let's take a short break. Let me get my notes together for the Legacy Scholarship information, which I promise will be more interesting than trademark law. So no more than 10 minutes. In fact, let's make it about 8 minutes. So exactly 2 o'clock, we'll be back in here for the rest of it.
good. Good. Well, you know, right now they elect a director from each district so that when they do their rides, they work through this board of directors.
Is the department happy with it?
We have been happy with it. When it all came down to the Constitution and bylaws, and we asked these people to do that, and then when it came back to the executive board, they turned it down because that's when all the stuff about the Constitution and bylaws was going on with the riders.
Not unusual.
If we don't need a Constitution and bylaws, we can just do like a letter of organization. Do a letter.
Come up and say hi.
Wouldn't that suffice?
Absolutely. But nobody on either side of the fence had to prove it.
No.
You're doing great. That's why we're.
Is this?
Other than saying
Brian,
hi.
talk to Stephanie. That's what I'm thinking.
My message is the DEC is the best friend of the riders. When the community.
It's stuff got lost in the shuffle here. They did it right when they got us a liaison for the Legion Riders. Then you basically don't have any authority to come to a wild one. They forget that they're opponents. But we just, anyway, I'm happy you're here, man.
But it looks like that's.
I'll take it to the boss and just free.
As soon as we get our dates up, but we do look at Legionville, the campground where they do school safety patrols. So we had our second one this year. So it's just kick back, have fun, take the tie on. No, I mean, it's something to think about. Put her back in. I just want to say, I told you we were getting
They can do department managers.
Yeah. I know from Wisconsin. We already talked. So they had a special executive meeting. They were up to 6 and 7 on Monday before Curry Park.
But this was before the turn-in.
And this is
So when they turned in $7,000, so
that's all we need.
So anyway, you ended up with ending in a quarter. So the next time I see Rhino, I'm going to have him set up by 6 and say, at least you can run it up to a buck. So you came out, even if they did that, you still came out ahead of them.
Oh yeah, yep. So, but yeah, and then of course the worst thing was when I was talking, he said Sullivan, other than hating you, the worst thing could happen. He said I blew my bike up. I got to bring it home on a trailer. But we took a couple extra days coming back from North Carolina. It was wonderful. We did that Tail of the Dragon.
You know, I did
Is that right?
Montana Village and North Carolina side. That's my home.
Oh man. But yeah, I just had to come up and say, yeah, I was just so Peggy said you were coming, so she came up to our romp and said, I don't have the answers. You know, but she says, I know we want you. It's a growing thing. I said, you just sit there. Oh yeah, got it.
You gotta do something. You know what I mean? They're looking at live.
Okay, am I live? Let's start moving back in.
Come on, people, we want to get started again here. We may have a few more questions, and we're going to talk about the Legacy Scholarship. So we want to get this, train moving up here. So I'm going to turn it back to our presenter, Bill Sloan.
We've got some lively discussions out in the hallway. And I'll be honest with you, I get the idea that the writers want to put together a little higher level organization within the districts and the department. And I'm also talking to some of the department officers and department executive committee and commander. They want to do the same thing. The question is how to cross the T's and dot the I's. So I think that you're well on the way of getting something like that accomplished. I'm glad to hear it. The biggest concern, of course, is liability. It's scary to everybody, but there are ways to work that out. So I'm seeing good things happening in Minnesota, which means that pretty soon, instead of $87,000, you'll be able to give me $190,000, $200,000 every year. And what is this about some sort of competition with Wisconsin?
There is no competition with Wisconsin.
Okay, no competition whatsoever. They're just not able to compete with Minnesota. Is that it?
Yay!
Rhino's a good friend of mine. I'm going to tell him that. Okay, let's talk about the scholarship. This is actually the first time that I've presented this thing outside of Indiana. It needs some work, but one of the things that we were looking at, a lot of the questions that was coming up from writers all over the country was, what impact are we having on the scholarship? You know, why do we need it? You know, we've got something like $7 or $8 million in the scholarship, but we're only giving $200 or $2,000 a time to each of the recipients of the scholarship. Some of the questions early on was, well, how many scholarship recipients did we have this year? And I could only say, well, we had 5, and they each got $2,500, which is a lot. But I think it needs to be explained exactly what they're doing, what the Education Commission is talking about with the scholarship. But it boils down to this. The scholarship started, and the eligibility for the scholarship started in 2001. So that when you have somebody who dies on active duty since 2001, their children are eligible for the scholarship. And in 2001 through 2004, 2005, we lost, well, from the news, we know we lost, several hundreds of people in combat deaths. But what people don't realize is how many people that we lose in the armed forces of the United States every year just from the dangerous nature of the training that they do. How many people, men and women, die on active duty in the armed forces each year? Does anybody have an idea? Well, you're right. It's over 1,000. In fact, it's quite a bit over 1,000. You may have trouble reading this graph, but that red line at the top, those are the accidents and illnesses deaths, people on active duty. It almost completely obscures the green line, which is the total deaths in the military. That blue line at the bottom, which started in 1980 and has a little bump in 1991 because of the attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, and then goes up into 2001, 2002, when we started Operation Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom. Those were the hostile action deaths. Those were the combat deaths. So you can see that really stays down towards the bottom of the graph. Of all the people who die on active duty every year, relatively few come from hostile action or combat deaths. Bottom line is we can expect, at the time I prepared this graph, I said from here on out, we're going to be looking at about 1,400 deaths each year from people on active duty. And this graph extends from 1980 to 2020. So we've got 40 years to show a tendency to do that. And this information comes from the Department of Defense, some of their publications. Now, statistically, and this is a big difference from the Vietnam era, only 4.3% of children are of college age when the parent dies. So all these deaths we've had over the last 10, 14 years, most of the time their kids are still infants, they're still in grade school, very few of them are in high school by this time. So now, in 2014 and later, all these children are beginning to reach college age. And we're seeing that with the applications for the scholarship. Whereas some years we had 2, 3, or 4 applications, and they're all approved, by the way. Nobody has ever turned down for the scholarship. If they're eligible, they are eligible, and they'll get it. But we had very few applications. That has sharply risen, as you'll see in a minute. More and more of these children are reaching college age, more are going to college. So now we're seeing, instead of 2 or 3 or 4 applications, we're getting 25 and 30 applications. And that number will only continue to rise as that population continues to reach college age. So our goals are to grow the Legacy Scholarship Fund to cover not only the current need for scholarships, but for future students as well. Remember, we're giving out the scholarships after they've already exhausted all of their Pell Grants, all their other scholarship opportunities, the Fry Scholarship, which is given by the federal government. What's left over, we will pay with the Legacy Scholarship. The checks that are cut for the Legacy Scholarship are cut to the student and to the college that they're going to. So they both have to sign, and that money will be used for college expenses like tuition and books and fees and everything else. It's designed to help them cover the costs that are not covered by other scholarships. That scholarship is also renewable every year. That student can apply for and get like a $2,000 or a $3,000 scholarship every year for 6 years. So now we're talking $15,000 or $20,000 for each student that they're eligible to apply for. So it's a very, very strong scholarship that we did not expect to be at this point. All the people in the Education Commission and Internal Affairs, the National Finance Officer, George Buskirk. Because of the actions of the writers and success of the Legacy Run, we are at around $8 million in the fund itself, which is that's what makes it possible to give those higher scholarships. Because originally the idea was that we could probably give $700 or $800 for every student every year to cover books and stuff. Now we can give a lot more. Military are eligible. 1,500 to 1,600 military deaths each year. That means, because of the data that we got from the Department of Defense, today, if you are on active duty in the United States military, there's a 50% chance that you are married and have children. If you have children, the average number of children is 2.1 or something like that, which basically means that for every military death that we have, there's one child for every 2 deaths that we have, there's one child that's going to become eligible for the scholarship. So with 1,500 to 1,600 military deaths, we can look at 650, 700, 750 children every year who are become eligible in 20 years when they reach college age. Crunch will come in 2019 to 2020. And I think everybody knows that our goal for the Legacy Scholarship and the Legacy Run, the writer's goal, is $20 million. And no matter whether I like it or not, they have told me, the writers have told me that they will continue with the Legacy Run until they reach that goal. And hopefully they'll go beyond that as well. But the red line is the number of eligible children that is growing. With a constant deaths of 1,500 people a year, that means that the red line, the number of children who are becoming eligible and will become eligible for college assistance under this program, is pretty much a sharp line going upwards. So it's trending up. Every year that passes, we get more and more and more children who will be eligible for the scholarship. The more money we have, the more money we can give to them. We gave one scholarship, $2,000 in 2004, and that was the first scholarship we gave, and it was the only application we got. 2005, we had 3 scholarships, 2006, 6 scholarships. So this is how that was growing. The red line was the number of children eligible, and the green line is the number of scholarships that have been awarded over the years. So it goes up and up. Same way with the dollars. The annual totals are increasing because the fund is growing and growing, and out of that we're able to give more and more money out of the scholarship. Don't want to go there yet. Some of the things that are going on behind the scenes is, how many people have heard of the Fry Scholarship? This was passed by Congress. It's a scholarship called the Sergeant something something Fry. It very closely mirrors the American Legion Legacy Scholarship because they based the Fry Scholarship on the Legacy Scholarship. After all other available means of getting scholarships and Pell Grants and other things like that, then Congress has decided we are also going to have a scholarship called the Fry Scholarship to give the children the additional funds they need to finish their college education. Fry Scholarship came around a couple of years after ours did, but the net result is there is another avenue for the kids to get the money they need for college. So it reduces somewhat what they might need to get from us. So for one thing, it means that we are not going to give these children a $40,000 college scholarship when they only need the $15,000 or $20,000 that I mentioned to get their way through college. To give them more money than they need is a waste of your resources. So that's just part of the deal right there. The Fry Scholarship helps us to keep those annual payments to each scholarship to be plenty enough for their needs to make sure that they want for nothing, but we're not going to pay them more than they need. Any proper scholarship is operated that way. But what happens when the Fry Scholarship is discontinued by Congress? Because remember, that is a discretionary funding. Congress voted to start the scholarship, but after the wars are over and people are home again, what generally happens to family support accounts? They're gone. So we got to be prepared when that day comes and Congress says, well, we just don't have the money, we can't do this anymore. We are prepared to do that because of the rapid growth of the Legacy Scholarship Fund, in large part because of the writers, but also because of the Sons of the American Legion and the Legion Auxiliary and the American Legion itself, which is also contributing so much money to this thing. So it's very, very successful for us. We want it to continue. The other thing is that the growth of the fund in recent years, we raised $1 million on the Legacy Scholarship. Nobody ever thought we'd get anywhere with that. The first couple of Legacy runs, we considered ourselves lucky to raise $100,000. We thought that would be a good result. But because of the interest in the Legacy run, it just kept building, and the writers have adopted it almost nationwide as their fund, their project, their thing, and the writers have adopted it as their own. So this gives us more money at this point in time than we expected. Combine that with the Fry Scholarship, which also pays the same things that we do. The Education Commission and the National Executive Committee and the National Finance Committee are actually at this moment considering ways of improving the Legacy Scholarship. Once we have paid scholarships to every single child that has applied for that year, what is the possibility of providing scholarships to active duty members of the armed forces? What is the possibility of giving scholarships to those people who have just recently been discharged from active service and need help for their college education? What's the possibility of giving scholarships to the dependents, the wives of those who are on active duty? And that's what they're discussing right now. It'll be years before a decision like that can be made, because one thing they want to do is they want a reality check. They want to check with the American Legion, find out what you guys think about things like that. George Buskirk is the National Finance Officer, and he has told me that George Buskirk is also a retired Lieutenant General. He was the Adjutant General of the Indiana National Guard. He's very much on top of soldier benefits, family benefits for soldiers. And he has told me that one of the things he would like the American Legion to step into is to take responsibility for educational benefits for active duty military and their dependents away from the military. He wants the American Legion to be the go-to organization for that. We'd have to raise a lot more money, but he points out that it's just not dependable. We can't depend on Congress in all years to be able to pay the cost of war, particularly when it results in single-parent families or no-parent families and the kids need the money. So that's kind of a long-term goal. Will it happen anytime soon? No. But because of the impact of the writers and because of the impact of the American Legion and the Sons with scholarship, you actually have people thinking in terms of how can we make this thing even better. So that's how that's working out. Now, Mark Twain said that there are three kinds of liars, three kinds of lies. There's lies, there's damn lies, and statistics. And I just gave you a whole bunch of statistics. Okay, now we can open it up to questions. Yes, sir. It's determined, yeah. The question was, how is the amount awarded each year to each of the people who apply for the scholarship? How is that determined? The Education Commission goes to the National Finance Commission every year and asks for $60,000, $70,000 to be pulled from the fund, or not pulled from the fund, but to be put out for the following year. And then at that point, I think currently it's $50,000, and if you have 10 people who apply, then that's 50,000 divided by 10.
5,000.
Yeah, $5,000 for each scholarship. So they're very careful. They want to leave some of it in the fund for it to continue to grow. But they have to predict how many people will apply for the scholarship, and we've got a pretty good baseline for that. If they decide that, well, the money that we allocated this year is only going to result, because we got 27 applications instead of 17 like we expected, they've got the freedom to pull more money out to give a good scholarship for that year. So, yeah, there's a lot of...
The question about putting the concern I have, okay, these scholarships are really programs for when the student graduates from college, they have a career waiting for them. We have a problem right now with the university, local university, with graduating people in the police department, and they get a certificate and everything, and they graduate, and this paper is worth nothing. This young man used all the PI bill up on getting this award from this graduating from this school, okay? And when he graduated, there's no jobs available for this individual. Do we have some sort of safeguard to make sure these programs, these young people are going into, are going to have a profession that they can go into after they graduate?
That is a fair question. The question was, he was pointing out that it almost sounds like a diploma mill. These people are taking their money and giving them a diploma in a skill that is worthless because they can't find a job in it. For one thing, the Legacy Scholarship is not paid unless the institution that the student is enrolled in is an accredited institution. But even that is problematic because there's different levels of accreditation. I think that there is a high target for accreditation that must be met before you're eligible to get the scholarship. The rest of your question has to do with colleges and, whether they're accredited or not, and why did that student choose to go to that field at that college? Did he do his own homework or her own homework and find out that this may not be the best thing to do? But generally speaking, unless the college meets a high standard, the student will not be, or the college will not be approved as participating in the Legacy Scholarship.
Oh, wait a minute. Jeremy will be right there.
Left.
Yes. Yeah.
Jeff Denton, District 8 in Cloquet, Minnesota. Kind of a two-part question for you. At our local college in Cloquet, the riders have been approached by our commander and declared to us that leadership of bringing in new ideas, or bringing life back into the post. Up in our area, the posts are very spread out. There's limited access to these programs for a lot of people. And the question that I have is with the other states that have already given their rider groups the benefits, what do we have to do? Can you give us any guidance or guidelines that we could make it more exponential for our state region? We can be more open to it. And the second question that I have is on the broad spectrum of being national. Besides the legacy run and everything like that, the riders, we're here to help our veterans. The legacy run is just one of the things that our department, our group is here to do. We're here to expand the notoriety for our region and our local areas. A lot of people aren't even know we have a post in Cloquet. You tell them we got a place that's located, and they just look at us like, well, where's it at? And I was just wondering on a national level, is being part of the writers group, is that making it a little more accessible to more people and more older people?
Take the second part of your question first. Yeah, without doubt, the visibility of the American Legion has been raised by the writers. Motorcycles by nature tend to be something that news editors and photographers and television crews want to go out and take a picture of. It's just something different. And for that reason, in a lot of places, the writers have gotten news crews into the posts to cover, just a regular post fundraiser or fish fry or something like that. Because of the presence of motorcycles, they think some sort of excitement is going on, and here they come in to cover it. I noticed on Google News less than a week ago, I think it was Missouri, the writers got together and all had an organized ride down to the police station so that they could give a plaque to each of the police, make a big deal out of it to demonstrate their thanks to the police station and the police officers in that county for helping them throughout the year on their organized rides and things like that. Police got a kick out of it, but the writers were mindful enough to invite the local television crews. And not only was it covered locally, but I think it hit Fox News as well. So something like that is unexpected dividends. I completely forgot the first part of your question.
Guidelines or anything that would help us in coming up from Minnesota?
Oh.
With other states that have accepted their writers as a department, we were just wondering if there's anything that we could do to work with them, just to make things a smoother transition for everybody.
I hesitate to help a department put something together because, number one, I am not the expert at that. And number two, the department executive committee is your best friend. And number three, you could go online and pick from dozens of other departments, go to their state website for the writers, and most of them you can download their department constitution and bylaws, most of which have been changed. Now they're department SOPs for the writers. We also have on the national website a template, which is currently called Constitution and Bylaws, but I've been meaning to change it for quite a while to something called Articles of Organization or SOP. So they're out there. But one of the main reasons I don't want to even give a recommendation one way or the other is because of the National Executive Committee's belief back in 2007 that we must let the departments and the writers figure this out for themselves, because you might not have a formal department program right now, but as you work it out in Minnesota, you might put something in place that in 5 years, everybody in the country wants to copy Minnesota, because you've seen the mistakes that other departments have made. You've made improvements here that you can make here that everybody else can't do. And working together with the department executive committee and the department leadership, you might have the best program in the country in a couple of years because you designed it based on your own expertise and the lessons you've learned over the last 10, 15 years of having writers in Minnesota. So that's the best answer I can give you. It's possible, but we got to work out the liability fears, which is mostly fear, and a host of other things. But you can do it, mainly because Minnesota has just got one of the better groups of leaders, and I'm not just saying that because I want to be invited back. But Minnesota historically has always had strong programs because of the strong department executive committee and their ability to accept new ideas, which in some departments is non-existent, to be honest. Oh, God, there's another question. What was that?
You may have a DVD with your American Legacy running your information. Take it back to the place.
You mean this presentation? It's on the hard drive down there now. Anybody who wants it, if you got a business card or something with your email address, I will email it to you. It's a big program. It's a big presentation, so sometimes it doesn't all go through. But you've got it, and I'll share it. And from time to time, email me again, and I'll give you the latest version of it.
We'll also talk about the DVD we do have on the lake.
You mean the DVD that was done at National Convention? That's actually available online on Legion TV. You can go to Legion TV, do a search on Legacy Run 2014, and you can watch the very, very nice video done by Derek Toe and the American Legion staff about the fundraising, including all the departments lining up to give their donations in front of the national commander on stage at National Convention, and Minnesota giving the $87,000 donation.
Hi, it's me again. One of the things that I've noticed in the Legion magazine, the national magazine, have been several articles that have been both the Legion writers. I think it's fantastic. Do you think in the very near future we could have a page or two? This way you can share the news with the rest of the people in the United States what the Legion writers are doing and vice versa?
I talked to Jeff Stoffer. He's the editor of the magazine about that. He wants to do it. And in fact, at one point, he was ready to launch a paper, American Legion Writers Monthly Magazine. That got turned down because of budget reasons. But he has taken over. I used to do the National American Legion Writers newsletter. I turned that over to the magazine staff because they could do a much better and more professional job. The problem is, and I'm talking to them now, I'm going to continue to have to write articles and get content to put it in there because they've only been able to put out a newsletter once every 2 months or so. But you can start seeing the electronic newsletter version to be a monthly, at least a monthly newsletter that's going to have a lot more information. And we are trying not only to get all the posts and chapters and subscribe to it, but also the mainstream American Legion. Every member of the American Legion should be able to subscribe to it. And in fact, they're able to. As far as content, I've been asking them for that for years, along with baseball, along with the oratorical.
Tell them I'm asking for it now.
I'll tell them that you told me. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of divisions in the American Legion, and we want our corner of the magazine, but it's just not possible. Too much content, too little space. But I agree. And at least they do give us major articles at least 2 or 3 times a year that are devoted to the writers, and I appreciate that. With that, Commander, I appreciate the chance to talk. I promise next time my presentation will have more pictures.
Oh, okay, we like pictures. Okay, let's give Phil a round of applause. Oh, look at you. Thank you. You know, I am really encouraged this afternoon, and I've talked to the writers that we're going to work something out. The program is just too damn important to all of us to let it go by the side. But we've got some research to do, but I have some great minds working on it. And Sceffy, we're going to do everything we can. So I'm asking the writers, give him a break. He's working, he's trying hard. We're trying hard, and we will get through this. And I want Minnesota to be on top again. Okay? All right. I believe then that this will conclude our afternoon session. We have the Grand March at 6:30. We have to line up at 6:30. We march, I guess, at 7 in the room next door, and then the hospitality suites will be open, the tables. And then we start tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, and we've got a pretty full agenda. Mr. Yes, Orf. Hospital Association meeting here at 4:30. I understand I have to open that too, right? Okay. All right. So Sergeant at Arms, if you'll help us pay respects to the colors. Thank you all for being here. I'm very happy.
Legion Riders, we're going to have a meeting immediately following this, so please stay in the room.
Thank you again, man.
Thank you so much. I think it was enough to calm everybody down. And I've got people talking out there. They want to try to come up. So, and if I get them to come part way, and these guys are coming apart, I think we're going to meet in the middle of the group. But we have to figure it out, right?
National viewpoint, we gotta get a handle on this.
Yeah, because that's the biggest thing. I mean, they're so worried. It's like when we have a lot of bars in Minnesota, Legion clubs that have bars. And they'll call and they'll ask the adjutant something, and they'll say, I can't answer anything about a bar because we don't have anything to do with it. You know, and even though that's where we get our money, that's how we fund ourselves, that's how we say one thing and somebody has an accident, they follow that right up to national when they're trying to sue people. And that's our biggest fear here. But I'm sure that Underdog feels the same way.
Well, Underdog also told me that, remember, whenever you ask a lawyer, he's going to tell you the worst case.
Yeah,
That's correct.
yeah. But that's the one thing that I know that they're concerned about. That's why if you stress it, it's a post thing, and you.
And there's ways to mitigate it. Anytime they do a post-to-post book, they can have just something as simple as a waiver.
We like Pokemon really go on Minnesota.
Pokemon?
Yeah. I was on chaired the game like control board for 15 years.
There are some chapters around the country that call it beer runs.
Yeah, no, we don't want to do that either. So, thank you. Thank you. I knew we could do it. Okay. Yeah, I gotta open up the Southwest.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna run down to
I don't know how.
Yeah.
Well, there's you called everybody. I've been talking with some of the NEC-men. Of course, they were in Indianapolis last week. And Minnesota, they want for a statewide program. I spent some part of last year addressing to the Department of Adjuvants at the adjuvant session here in Minnesota Empire Development. Exactly the same questions. And I let them know that the liability of something's never going to go away, but essentially upon having a rider's permit from having any other new program, they're all going to have some aspect of it. And at least the riders all carry insurance. So,
No, it's all good.
Joey, how long are you hanging around?
this will stay on my face.
He's got to get through to them.
Scott, ask him how long he's hanging around. How long are you hanging around?
I'm going to have to go to bed early tonight because my flight leaves at 7 in the morning from Fargo.
Wow.
So I'll be leaving probably 3 o'clock in the morning to drive back.
Somebody would like your card. Do you have one?
I didn't bring any cards this
Your
time.
email address in the Legion magazine? Your chairman?
What's that?
I said, is your email address in the Legion magazine under chairman?
No, but it's on the masthead.
It's on the what?
It's on the masthead of the magazine.
Okay.
Where you go and find the division, program chairman and stuff. Look for Legion Riders. My email is simple. It's just legionriders@legion.org.
What's your phone number, Bill?
Very good. 317-630-8255. 1265. And that'll ring my desk.
Well, hopefully I don't ever have to call you. How do we, once we get this whole thing figured out, how do we get into communication with the National Executive Committee?
You got to go through your own department executive committee. You do it with resolutions. And if the Minnesota Executive Committee agree and approve, then they have the option of sending it to the national executive. We're talking about program changes. And
it's a big process. Well, which is good.
I'm expecting in the next several years, people to start submitting resolutions for national office for the riders. And we've been so used to telling people, for instance, the law enforcement cadet program. I don't know if you have that in Minnesota. 17 other departments have it. It's a wonderful program, but only 17 departments operate it. If you go to some of the departments and ask them about it, they have no idea what you're talking about. And we would love to see that expand. So it would be like Boys State and Boys Nation. Having the graduates of the state programs come up to DC, we could send them to Quantico there, do an academy for federal law enforcement.
Yeah, Junior?
I have your article from Nancy for the newsletter.
Okay.
I got it last week. I'll do it probably Sunday.
Okay.
Monday, you'll get the newsletter.
Okay, thank you, Junior.
You're in there.
So I'm using that as an example that we'll never have a national riders officers.
Jan wants to know if she needs to stick around for your meeting due to the fact that we're really not active yet.
You're still out in there.
Does she really need to be here? Because I think she might have to get out. I have
She
a
should.
board meeting. I have.
It's going to be a really short meeting. It's going to be about 15 minutes,
Okay.
if that. So.
All right. I'll let her know.
Okay. Cool.
So I used to tell people that you can forget about having national riders officers because not all the departments have riders. And then a couple of years later, all the departments have riders. And then the other thing was SAL didn't have national officers until okay, just wait. Wait 10 years, then send up the resolution. They said, why 10 years? And I said, I'll be retired.
It won't be your problem.
Yeah. Hello.
Riders, come on up front here if you could.
This filler right here wants it.
They'll come down there. Just...
A lot of the other department adjutants stood up and discussion. Somebody actually says, let's go back. We have the same liability. And our insurance people are survivors, no additional liability. We carry expenses that you have to have insurance where you're not part of the American Legion of Riders. And that was one of our actions fought for us. Remember, every single one of our riders provides insurance. And the answer is it doesn't solve all the liability. We all have to know this person is the citizen, so that goes on. Everybody, everybody's suing everybody. It's something that's on everybody, anybody that has an organization of any type. Don't worry about it.
Hello. Very nice, very nice. We're just gonna have a quick meeting for those interested in hanging out, hang out. Otherwise, it's gonna be pretty quick. Is there anyone available to take notes? My secretary is gone.
I would, but I ain't got pen. Oh, look at that, we got it.
Okay. On your feet. Present. Hold. Two. Do I have a padre volunteering? This is some of the, remove your lids, please.
Thank you for this beautiful meeting, people. Bless us.
Covered. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't know. I now declare this meeting of the Minnesota American Legion Riders, state of Minnesota convened. In lieu of everything that has happened today, this meeting is a continuation from, we have been.
I need to put it back, that's all. Okay, sorry.
We've been running under our current document for the last 4.5 years, and I think everyone that has been here today heard Commander Moon say that we are to continue to run under that document until the DEC provides us with an SOP to run under. Did everyone hear that? Okay. Last night, this thing looked a lot different. Everything we discussed and fought for, I thought it was all gone when I left the DEC meeting. Today, there's a little bit of sunshine on the horizon. So we will continue to operate the way we have been with your approval, of course. Do we have all our district reps here? If you're here, please stand up, say your name.
6th District, Dwayne Collins.
Yep.
4th District, on behalf of Bob Leslie, Tom Weigel. 5. 10th District, Carol.
And Jason Conkle is the 1st district. There he is. I didn't even see him, man. Sorry. Secretary able to record all that. If you could, if you're a district rep, please write down your name on the piece of paper for her, or I can get a, in that clipboard there, Jeff, you can hand that around and they can write their names in there too. Names, address, phone number, stuff like that. Again, I can't stress enough. Last night, I watched 4.5 years of our hard work go down the drain. I thought it was a done deal. It did not look good when we left that DEC meeting. Today, after listening to Mr. Sloan and Commander Moon, I think we got a really good shot of putting this thing to bed in probably March when the next DEC meeting meets. As a collective, I am here to do your will. How would you like me to negotiate this with Commander Moon and the DEC?
are we going to, well, how do you want to proceed? Sully?
Just for thought, if it works out or not, if you talk to Commander Moore and see if she takes 3 people, we take 3 people from the Legion Riders and get together and kind of just work it out. Hammer it out. Sit it down. I'd say Rico, yourself, and Pete. If you want it that way. And as I figure, call her 3 people and we work it out. We got thinking from both sides that way.
Reps? You guys are the ones telling me what to do, so what are your thoughts?
I like to make that into a motion.
Can someone please remove District 6? We have a motion on the floor to have Sully, Rick Oschlager, and myself sit in on the oncoming possible SOP from the DOC board. Do I have a second? I have a second. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Being no further discussion, all those in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Whew. As far as our this process, how it's going to work is, I'm assuming the Legion DEC, I've never had to work with them so far, so I'm assuming that we're going to hammer it back and forth and try to come up with a sensible solution for both the Legion and the Riders, at which time we will bring it back, whatever that final document is, we will then bring it back to this group and we will distribute it, so on and so forth. Now, I'm assuming, being the DEC's involved, once we come to a agreement, that's pretty much going to be the way it is. I don't think we can really change what the DEC wants, can we? I mean, it's going to have to be whatever right, but the point of it is they are a big brother here, so we answer to them. So what I don't want is people to think, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do this and we're going to do this. We took this document that's sitting in there. It took us 2.5 years to get that document. It took us another 2 years to get it, to have me stand up here and be able to talk to you and have a functioning group. So to say we're just going to whip it together and it's a done deal, it's not very. Go ahead, Jeff.
I just wanted to say on that line, the document that we already have, that we all voted on.
Yep.
We all came together, worked it out. 3 of you that are going to this meeting, we get it set up. Just stay true to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You guys vary too much from what we already
Yep.
on. This whole thing is going to start all over again.
Absolutely. We have a document that has been approved and we will hold true to that document. And I don't think, other than changing a few words in it to make the Legion happy, I don't think we're going to have a constitution and bylaws. I think we will have an SOP, which is actually a lot better for us. But the fundamental things that are in that document are going to also be in that SOP. So essentially, we're still sending that forward. It's just going to be worded different, but it's going to mean the same thing. Is everybody okay with that? Because that's what that's exactly what we've all worked for and what we've presented unanimously. So that's what we're going to go with. That's going to be our starting block, I guess you could call it. So now that we are moving forward, I know we've talked in the past several times about putting articles in the Legionnaire. Is that something we want to pursue? Because I think that more than anything is going to help our cause and get our names out there and get contact information out there. So when people got questions how to start a chapter, or if they have questions how to run things or so on and so forth, they have a guide or a go-to person that boom, this is District 1, this is District 2, this is District 3, so on and so forth. Is that something we want to continue to pursue? Okay. I will get a hold of the department. We'll see if we can set up, we'll maybe break it down. There's 10 districts. Maybe we'll do start in January, because it's going to take a little bit of time to district, our contact information, so on and so forth. I think come July, we should probably allow the legacy run committee to have that month spiel, because I know Sully likes to talk, so he can write to his little heart's content. Absolutely.
I sat down and had a conversation with board management, and they both said they would be back. And all do our own fundraising, and then as at the end of the year, last representative meeting, I'll have a district meeting, and my team chat show up. We got another one there, I'm gonna see another. But present sheet to our district at the time. No, not at all, not at all. You're just talking as a district. Yeah. I mean, of course, everybody's walking from the golf. Next year, I actually want to try to get one percent. Follow me on.
You got another question, Jeff?
Good question. Now, what you guys do in my district, raise money by district, legacy fund. Is there a competition there, or?
There's gonna be.
The reason I ask that is because if you want something that stimulates people, it gets people fired up, it's the competition. And if you want to get, like I've got the deal, revitalization coming out with membership between the fourth and fifth district. These guys are already making their plans to kick each other's ass.
Yep.
So when you're talking about doing competition between the districts, that's the way to fight. All I can get it on.
The only reason I bring this up is because the fact that we all know closer to the city area, it's easier for you guys to get hit in multiple posts. For us up there, it's a little bit different story. You can get up on the northern drive, you realize you'll ride 120 miles before you get to that post.
Before you see a car.
This river does the western half, that connects right to the middle, they do the central half, and we do the eastern half, you can get more close, you get more of the message out to more people. Very one district, instead of just buzzing through, not how hard, how much we try to hit as many as possible, it's too fast in the area. then what you do is you break it into regions. That way you got everybody helping out each other. You're doing it by region.
Is Sully gonna talk?
No!
There's a shocker.
Here's the deal about the Vegas run right now, so you all understand it. We got Jill Davis that records everybody, the money that comes in. We do it the first 2 weekends in August where it fits in with, everyone wants to run a national run, that's a week, a whole week, and then you got the national convention after that. That's why we picked some dates. The other thing is, all the money goes down to the department in the fund day before, but it's Jill Davis that reports everybody's money. Here's the thing, we just got it and had it to national. Right now, the way it's gonna work, come February, Jill's already sent a whole list to Bill Sloan. They're making all the plaques, all the thank you letters and everything, and it's coming back to the Department of Minnesota. When it comes there, the department calls Jill and me or Sean, and we go down and pick them all up, and we take the responsibility to distribute them to the whole state tax bill, one way or the other, and national. Department collects that has to put out numbers. We do all the legwork and everything besides the legacy money. The thing of it is, we go into raising it, sending it in, no way to report it. So
Here, Jeff and I have, if you don't mind, Jeff, Jeff and I have discussed it numerous times. And I think what Jeff means, and if I'm wrong, please tell me, but each district does their own run, and you could still document who gave what, how much, this is yada, 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 and Jill can still document all that stuff.
just to throw it out, 9 districts been doing it for 2 years. They go all the way up to the Canadian border. They do their run in July.
Sure.
But I mean, the ideal thing would be to have every district do their own legacy run.
Sure.
And we'd have a group that could just come on and do all the districts.
And that's exactly what I think Jeff's talking about, and we've discussed it in the first district as well as doing our own. Everything would still be the same. We'd still have documentation of who gave what to give Jill to input. That way everybody gets the recognition they deserve, so on and so
I'm
forth.
all for it because I'd rather put on 600 miles
Right.
in 3 days than 1,800 miles in 6 days.
And again, that's where, that's,
We're gonna grow that point. I think it's great.
Absolutely not. It's not like you guys.
Oh, no.
It's trying to make it easier.
Yes.
And you guys, because we're gonna be, got a lot, they're on the road.
And we'd be loving every minute of that. It's a whole idea, as long as we get 20 million dollars.
yeah. This is a great idea. I think every district rep here should take it back to their districts and see what they sound off on it. Because we're not really gonna start the planning of it till January, February. So that'll give you some time to get feedback from your districts. And if your district, Jeff, wants to do that next year, by all means, personally, I say do it. I know the first district.
I'll second that.
Yep. I know the first district will probably do the same exact thing, and now that we exist, maybe it's a lot easier to present. If some districts can't do it or they don't have the structure to be able to do it, I think the 10th district could probably do it themselves too, but some districts can't. Understandable. The run will continue, and maybe we'll have to hook through some of these districts that aren't to where we are yet. Eventually, we're going to get there. This entire program, or that which don't exist yet, will get there. It's just we're baby stepping it. We're right here, right now. Pretty soon, this thing's going to fill the whole room. So. By all means, take it back to your districts. If you can swing it this year, next year, by all means, do it. That's up to each individual district to do that. the bottom line, the main thing we're trying to do is raise money for this thing. And I know some people get discouraged that the legacy fund maybe don't give out as much as they think it should, but everyone seen the presentation today, and hopefully that clarified why we do it the way we do it. It's to fund it indefinitely once we hit that 20 million. So, and again, there's a whole bunch of other stuff too. Five. Correct. Yep. Hopefully, when we write our new, thank you, when we write our new SOP, whatever that might be, that's what we've been aspiring to do this entire time, was to be able to get a document in place so we can go out as the unit that we are and start getting information out. Until the DEC approves us, we can't do that. We haven't been allowed to do that because they're worried about getting, there's a lot of misinformation floating around as well. So again, hopefully these are all baby steps and we'll get there. It might take a couple more months yet. So, but we will get there. When
I would bring you back to the page here, that lead share paper.
Yep.
Like, the first small introduction to all 10 district people.
Sure.
And maybe what it would take to start a lead writer group.
Sure, we can do that.
Instead of one by one, it's 10 months before you introduce everybody.
How would you like me to proceed? First of all, I'm gonna have to call and get permission. Assuming we get permission, you want me just to write it, put all the district reps' phone numbers, contact information by district? I mean, everyone here, for the most part, knows what's going on. And if you have any questions, that someone asks you a question that you might not know the answer, call me. If I don't know the answer, I'll find the answer. So if something comes up where you guys don't have an answer to it, give me a call. And if I don't know it myself, I will get in contact with Bill Sloan or whomever. If you're okay with that, if I can get permission from the Legion to get an article in, that's what it'll be. We'll introduce and break it down. And that way there's contact information on this SOP. One of the things I am going to ask for in it is that we do have Dave. He was working on setting up kind of like a little packet for starting a post or an ALR chapter. It's right there. If you could, Dave, pass that out to the reps. It's I've briefly looked at it. It's very good.
We have to go to what our SOP would be.
Right. It's the idea, and that's what we're working towards. And we'll probably have Dave join us when we go to meet with the Legion if he has time, because that is probably one of the most important things. Why we're doing what we're doing is to get that thing ironed out and be able to hand it out. I say we'd send it to every post in the state. That way they have it on file, and if they want to start one, boom, here it is. Here's the book. So, well, we hope the post will pick that up. So, yes, sir.
In your article, what I think I would suggest in January,
number of chapters, number of writers. That's already been asked. How many chapters are there? How many people are involved?
Sure.
Do we know?
I can find out here in about 20 minutes.
But you know what I'm saying? How many
Right.
chapters? We get 100 chapters?
There's 9 chapters in the first district. How many members? It fluctuates, but. Yep. Yep, from every district rep here, because I'm not gonna sit on the phone for 10 hours trying to figure out how many chapters there are in the state, so. Yep, absolutely. Don't shoot it to me, shoot it to Jody. Sully?
The actual consolidated report form that the American Legion has at the post level has a spot on there. You have no Legion riders.
Right,
yet.
right.
National don't even know how many we got. I can give you a pretty dang good guess, but I can lie either way. But that's how we get recognized to the national level. You gotta go back and tell them your post, the spot, filling out that consolidated report form. You have the riders.
The code on that report? Yeah.
It's on your post
Do you have one on
consolidation.
how many people and how much they think?
Oh, yeah, it's on the
Bottom of the form.
the post level.
It's on your consolidation form is the what it's on, so. But again, not all legions follow that form either. Some of them don't submit it, and the flow of information, people, that's why we're here, and we're trying to fix a really big cart that's broke, so.
Well, like Cat said, we are the best keeper secrets.
Absolutely.
Next to the nation.
Absolutely.
Best keeper secrets.
I'll work on that newspaper article, the SOP. Are we still planning on doing a Donnie Smith bike show now that we are moving forward? Everybody's cool with that? Okay. The romp next year be the same weekend, the 4th weekend in September. I'm gonna submit the letter. They don't think they meet until April, the Legionville board, but I am gonna submit the letter to Commander Moon and to the chairman of Legionville, so. Go ahead, Mike.
Question, talked earlier about starting something today, where you know from experience that all the districts have midwinters, January, February. What about getting your information together and taking them to these midwinters? Commanders, having the time on their program, I'm sure they'll get it.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good idea too. A lot of the riders that have, there's only two, I think there's 2 or 3 districts that actually have district. First district has one, the 10th district has one. I don't think any other districts are formed, are they? As far as having district structure? Yeah, for the ALR districts. Okay. So a lot of these ALRs might have never been to a fall conference or midwinter conference, or a lot of them, other than being part of the ALR, this is all news. I mean, I never went to any of this stuff before, so everything's kind of a work in progress. Great idea though. Get in touch with your district commanders too, and see if you can get a time slot. And the biggest thing you can do is educate them. You know, talk to them.
Conversations I've been having with my chapters, and set up a district meeting for the spring. We're all gonna get together, and we're having 2 other district events for District 8 next year.
Cool. Again, this all goes back to you guys. This thing's only going to be as good as what you make it. So I can't do everything. You can't expect the rep sitting next to you to do something in your district. It's kind of a bad deal, but you gotta carry the weight on this. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
To Wayne? Okay. I actually have his phone number. I'll give him a call and stuff. Thank you. Other than that, anyone got anything? Good. Hopefully, hopefully. I know there's some districts that have ALRs that don't have reps here. There's obviously 2 of them. Hopefully, once we get this thing in the paper, they'll see that and they'll call me, they'll call whoever their district rep is next to them. If the 8th district knows someone from the 9th district, they'll get a hold of you. Hopefully, we'll get all 10 districts covered, and this thing will it's gonna go on autopilot pretty quick here, guys. So, it'll take care of itself. Again, I can't stress how thankful I am to see all you guys here today. How thankful I am for the Legion, even though last night I had a few different words for them. But, right. This has been a long road, and I think we're finally near the end of it. So, give yourselves a round of applause for all the hard work you guys have done. Do I have a second? Thanks again, guys. All those in favor? On your feet. Attention. Nope. Move your headgear, Padre.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this group, this meeting, this be together and to make decisions. Bless us. Amen.
Covered. I now declare this meeting of the Minnesota American Legion Riders adjourned.
When you have a meeting with the 3,
Yep.
there be some kind of a letter that goes out to every
Yep.
district?
Yep. We'll get
They don't have a representative that goes to them with a request that they all get somebody assigned, come to the meeting for the final decision.
What we'll do is we'll send it out to all the district commanders. That way the district commanders have to take charge for their districts.
Sounds good.
Okay.
This started and we were talking, they said, what form is this? Yeah. Slow and started getting this information. Already got this. Wow. Been 5 years working on well, yeah, that's one of the skills, man.
This is election time.
Oh, I love it. Oh, everybody. They just never close up. It's much easier. It's like, okay, it's got that. Yeah, very well. I'm getting old, you know. Yeah. Yes.
All of a sudden, your budget. But that's one person that
Other people bring some policy. So.